Good morning. Today what I'm going to do is show you how to assemble one of these line following boards by Patton Robotics. And like I said, or you saw probably in the product thing, it can be set up in a couple different ways. Here you can see I have it set up with right angle pins, okay, and I have the LEDs facing forward. In this case, you could probably mount it on your robot like this so that the infrared is facing down if your goal is to find a black line. And then have your wires coming up this way. My personal favorite is to do it like this, where I'm using straight pins, okay? And I have the LEDs mounted on the back side of the board, and I tend to use a standoff or some other type mounting device to mount this onto my robot. Either one is fine. Another thing that's kind of nice about when you build this yourself, the two infrareds are emitters here, the clear ones, are overkill in a way. They're very, very bright. In fact, if you put resistors that are much lower than 1,000 ohms, these are 1K resistors, there's so much light that they sort of saturate the phototransistor all the time, and that becomes kind of a problem. So you could actually remove one of these, and one of the things that I like to do for demonstrations, and I'll show it on the video regarding the product itself, is put in, for example, a red or a green or an ultra bright or something like that, so that when the robot is driving around, you can see one of them is strictly there for a lighting effect, and it shows where the light is shining, so you can see it when it does actually cross the black line. And the other one then becomes the functional unit, which is looking for the reflected or transmitting the light so it can be reflected back to the phototransistor. So that being said, like I said, I'm going to build this one like this. Okay, so with the straight pins and the LEDs on the back side. And this will be a little bit of an awkward build for me because there's going to be a camera in between me and what I'm trying to solder, so bear with me on that. I do want to show you this. Hopefully I can get this up here with my extension cord. I'm going to be using basically a student grade one soldering iron, much like we would have in our school lab, and just to kind of keep it fair. And typically on this particular device, I have it set at about the 3 o'clock position. Okay, that seems to be a reasonable bit of heat. It doesn't, not too hot that it causes the flux to pop and sizzle, but hot enough that I get a good solder joint. So I'm going to set this back down. And let's go ahead and get started here. And again, I apologize if this isn't the perfect build because it's a little awkward position. So as a rule, what you want to do is you want to start with your lowest profile components first. And so in this case, on this particular board, it's going to be my resistors. They're going to be the ones sitting lowest onto the board. This particular board, like I alluded to a little bit a minute ago when I was talking about the emitters, this kit comes with two 1K resistors. These are brown, black, red. And it comes with one 30K resistor, which is orange, black, orange. Okay? So the first thing you want to do is simply bend these guys down, and I'm putting the 1Ks in the portion here labeled 1K. Okay, there's one. There's no particular orientation on a resistor, although I do tend to try to make it aesthetically line up, so I'm going to put the brown band facing the front, and in this case I'm going to have the orange band facing the front. And I'm not doing that again for any particular reason other than aesthetics. I just like to have my bands line up. It's just the way I am. And I'm going to spread these out ever so slightly. Okay, so I've got them in place. They're flat. And I'm going to lay this down. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clean the tip with my solder. I'm only going to put in one solder joint on each resistor. And the way you want to do this is you want to come in, it's a little bit of an angle here, on one side, get the base metal and the wire hot, and then come in on the other side and put a little dab of solder there. That's actually not quite enough. Again, I can't quite get a good view on this myself. There we go. Should look like a little volcano. You should actually see it kind of wick in, like when you get it right. The solder will be drawn right in, and it'll form a little volcano or a Hershey's Kiss. Okay, let me take a look at it. And I've got 3 pretty nice solder joints, and this is the other thing I want to check. My resistors are still flat, okay, which is good. And that means I can now solder the other side if I needed to and adjust it. I could have just heated that one solder joint up a little bit and then pushed that resistor in a little bit further before I soldered the other side. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Heat the base metal and wire, come in from the back, it melts in. You put the tip right on the base metal and wire, come in from the back side, and base metal wire, back side. Okay. And it looks like I've got some decent little joints. Okay, everything looks good. And I suddenly realized I don't have my flush cutters in front of me, so I'm going to pause this for a brief moment. I'll be right back. Okay, apologize for that. I don't normally solder here on my video bench, and I neglected to bring the flush cutters. So now I'm going to cut these flush and cut them low, flat side of the cutter down, okay, and trim these off. It's hard to see in that video, but I've used I'll kind of zoom in this way. I have the flat side of the cutter down, bringing it in low and close, and nipping it off the wire. Okay, so it cuts it a nice little profile. So now I'm going to do the LEDs and the phototransistor. Notice the board. It does have semicircles here with an edge that is next to the square pad, which does not have a continuous line. All right, that is where the flats of these go. It might be easier to see it on the black one. Not sure if you can see it on the video, but assuming you've got brand new products, okay, which you would if you got this kit, there'll be a shorter wire and a longer wire. If you follow the shorter wire up, that side right here on the rim, okay, is flat. The rest of it's round all the way around, and then it comes to the flat, okay? So what you want to do is you want to insert this. We're going to do it, keep in mind, I want this on the back side, so notice the square pads, okay? The square pads, all 3 of these, are the side where the short wire and the flat go. The phototransistor goes in the middle. So I'm going to put the phototransistor in there. I'm putting the short wire in the flat side. Okay? Do the exact same thing with this emitter. I'm putting the short wire in the square hole, which was on the flat side. Last but not least, I'll do it one more time. The short wire in the square hole, which corresponds to the flat side. You can sort of see it. This is flat. I rotate it over, and it lines up with the flat. Okay? I'm going to set this down. And once again, because I want to make sure I have a moment to adjust it if I need to, I'm only going to put in 1 dab of solder on every joint. And this is very awkward with this camera in my way. I can see already I'm going to have to make some adjustments. That moved a lot. Okay. So, in this case, they did not lay flat. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to heat this up. And I'm going to gently push it with my finger. Wait, what side is it? Yeah. Heat this up. Soften it up. And push it in. Okay, and hold it. And now you can see it's straight and it's flat. I did the same thing with the phototransistor. The 1 solder joint that I did put in, straight, flat. And I'm going to do it again with this last one. Make sure that it is straight and flat. Trust me, I don't normally have this Excuse all my apologies and excuses. I don't normally get these in crooked, but once again, I'm in an awkward position with this camera. And now I'm going to go ahead and clean the tip a little bit. I'm going to finish off the job. Solder there, there, and there. Actually, I want a little bit more here. Get that nice little volcano. Okay, and now I've got these nice little volcanoes that are ready to be trimmed off. Take my flush cutter, again flat side against the board, and trim it off. Okay, very nice. Now we're nearly done. I've broken this into a 3-position, a 3-pin, and a 2-pin. Okay, so they go in like this. I kind of hold it in place. Like that. And once again, I am not going to put solder on all the pins. I'm simply going to put one on this and one on this. And then it's time to physically check alignment. Alright, in this case I think I've done a good job. Everything looks aligned. Everything looks flush. It's flat. So I'm going to finish the soldering off. Like so. Okay, so there you have it. This jumper ultimately will go here, and now we have a matched pair of these boards. So that is the assembly instructions. The only things that would be different, again, is if you're going it inline, you can see all the pieces are on the top surface, and I have used 90-degree bent pins down here. Okay, so that allows you to mount it in this direction. So I hope that was useful, and I will see you guys again soon.